Welcome to xYouthGroupx. I'm Ryan. This is Anthony. That's Taylor. And if you watched the previous episode, this is part 2 of the Chad Johnson episode. The most influential person, I said it last time, and what I believe for all of emo, Christian, everything. So to leave off where we were, Come and Live Fest.
Yeah.
Is
will there be a fourth festival? Come and Live Fest, man. I mean, I think the problem, the initial challenge that I could see is that I don't know how many of those bands would actually do it.
Play those songs
like,
again,
well,
yeah.
like it's especially when I think of someone like the Ember Days, where there's literally been a divorce in the band. Like how does that? It's fine. We'll just get on stage.
Look,
again.
bud,
Like,
here comes your stepdad playing these songs.
Oh my God.
Wow. I just don't know. I just don't know if.
Yeah.
I don't know how likely it is. And the other thing is because, as you pointed out, like how those songs were written out of and for a very specific time.
Sure.
I don't know how many of those bands would say, I feel comfortable reuniting and performing those songs if they, it's kind of like, my guess is it would be the way that Josh from The Chariot, from Norma Jean, from 68 sees things, because it's
Just
like,
adjust the camera and tell people it's not going to happen.
it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? I mean, I didn't think Furnace Fest would ever happen. So I never
There's a better chance of
ever,
that.
I never ever would have imagined being part of a hip hop or a country music festival. Like never in any.
The hip hop one was wild. When Elena told me and then told me the lineup, I was like, hey, this is pretty good. But B, Chad and Johnny are doing this?
I don't even know some days like what I'm doing, or like what I'm doing here. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, a fourth fest. It's like we have, I think it's the
Just
first.
call it a whole month.
Well, we have the first 3 weekends in
Right.
October booked, so I guess technically there probably is a fourth weekend that we could book something.
So we're talking on the way here, like obviously the podcast called xYouthGroupx, an ex-youth group, like 1 day, 2 stage, I think could work like once.
Nice, yeah.
You would know better than anyone, but like that's one of those things you bite with people with nostalgia one time, get everyone together, do it once, and then I don't think you could sell it twice.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the Furnace Fest experience from the starting point. Was like there is a part of me that wonders now looking back if we should have just opened the door and closed it one time.
The 1 year.
The 1 year. And I have like, I don't know. I just quite see, I mean, a lot of this is maybe time and age and being willing to ask myself harder questions than I have in a long time. And so all I know is that first year was pure magic. And every year
I was not there.
Every year since then has been beautiful, but it's been a level of energy, a level of work, a level of tension, a level of challenge that was not, even though there were many challenges and all kinds of stuff that first year, it just felt like we could do no wrong, even though everything in the world was opposing us.
Right.
And since then, it's just different. But
well, the first year, you really get 2 years because of COVID.
Right.
So you have 2 years for people to buy tickets.
Yep.
Not to put too much business out, but like the first year was a really successful year.
Yeah.
For the following year to not be the same.
Yeah.
Level. So you come off of the first, you know this, you do the first thing right, you come out with the first record, you do the first fest, it smashes, you're like, I'm him, I'm gonna, like, the next one's just gonna be even better. And then when you find out, like, oh, like, maybe, like you're saying, maybe this was a one-time thing, this was way harder than I thought, you commit to 4 years, like, it becomes, you start to, like, backpedal, which could honestly almost be, you can look at it multiple ways. Could have been a good thing, because if year 2 would have been really good and then year 3 could have bombed, your budget could have been, you could have been like, yeah, let's get Paramore. Let's spend $1 million. Let's get Paramore. And not, Paramore would have probably sold, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you could have really upped the budget and really lost.
Yeah.
So
True.
hindsight, but sometimes things can be a blessing. You just don't quite realize them, in the moment.
Yeah.
Like we've already talked about. But yeah, where's Paramore?
Paramore?
Yeah. What do they want? What do they want $1 million?
I don't know, man. I think to me it's like whatever they want, it would be on a level that the festival, kind of like a Deftones, like we've just never been at that level. And you're right. It's like at that point, I'm just not sure how you pull that off. And it's just, at least not without having massive outside backing, which we don't have. Yeah. So,
because Emery, correct me if I'm wrong, plays for $500 in a case of beer.
they are $1 million and 4 cases of beer.
Oh,
but
God.
you're close. Yeah.
The question money went crazy. Golly.
Yeah, 1.2 for the question.
That was my. All right, I'll be there this year. Question's top 5 favorite album for me.
Yeah, it's such an incredible album.
I've told this to them, but you obviously know firsthand. In 2023, I begged and begged and begged for Reliant K.
Yeah, you did.
And no one else cared. Johnny did not want him. Johnny goes, you remember this? Johnny goes, you mean the song that we were meant to live? I was like, Jesus, what are we doing? I was like, no, that's Switchfoot. He's like, okay, I didn't like them.
Well, I mean, that's not a big surprise. Johnny's taste in Christian music is pretty much reserved only for Strong Arm and NIV.
Fair.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But he definitely has not stayed in touch with Christian music or like the youth group kind of music. I think somehow he just didn't. His youth group was Slacker 66 and Hot Water Music and At the Drive-In and a bunch of bands.
5 Iron Frenzy and
that's true.
Well, that's
Lee.
Lee.
He probably would like. He probably does like 5 Iron.
But yes,
and MXPX.
Yes, that is true. That was the caveat for that year was Johnny would say, if MXPX will commit, you can have your little band. And I was like, all right, cool. Not talking about Whitsett, like talking about Reliant K. I didn't care about us. Yeah. I didn't care about us at all. I just wanted them. And I just thought it's funny because I've told them that story, but I was like, no, it's real. Like I texted Johnny every single day. Because everyone got a vote. And there was like, Elena was asking for bands, obviously y'all. And I was like, look, man, I'm just asking for one thing only. Just get my favorite.
Great, dude.
Just get my, it worked out.
That was a heck of a main stage lineup that day.
Yeah,
it was
dude.
kind of like a little kid dream come true for us because we got to play early on the what was that stage called? Pond stage.
Yeah,
best
and
stage.
Then literally just got to sit side stage and watch all the first CDs I had in my car when I was 16. It was freaking.
Which
sick.
is crazy because at the time we were like, this is Steven's last performance. I remember thinking that in the moment. And then when you told me that he was going to do this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
Yeah. That's gonna be
especially for Never Take. You've had Amberlin the whole time. What's your favorite Amberlin record?
Cities, without a doubt.
The first episode we did, we talked about like just records and favorites, and we all had different favorite Amberlin. Mine was New Surrender.
Oh, cool.
Which is like later.
Yeah.
But I really love that record because to me it goes like there's heavy and then there's like pop Amberlin almost.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool.
And mine was Never Take Just for Daylight Friend.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great song.
Well, hey, this year at Furnace Fest, get your tickets now.
Hey.
Okay, so 2021 happens. You're back. How did you even? I don't want to do too many like questions you've answered before, but quickly, how did you? Where did Furnace Fest coming back even like enter your brain?
Well, it wasn't originally in my brain. It was originally in Johnny's brain, and then I think that somehow I don't know if I can't remember whether Johnny would have talked to Ryan or whether I would have. I'm not sure, but somehow it was like Johnny first approached me with the idea. And then I would see Ryan at church and he would be like, hey, I talked to Further or I talked to Living Sacrifice or something, and I think they want to do it. It'd be great. But I just remember at that time thinking that the interest would be non-existent because everyone's moved on and everyone's, so in my mind, there was never, ever a world in which Furnace Fest would relive. It was just kind of a...
Because in your mind, correct me if I'm wrong, there's never a world where these bands make a resurgence.
Right. There's
This
never,
music makes a resurgence.
right.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's just like the festival was so long ago and hasn't existed, for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's back. It's like just didn't, to me, I just didn't think it was gonna work.
Right. So now that you've been in it for obviously the front 4 years, end of era, you're moving forward. There's the new fest. We've talked about before, just throughout life, that one of the things that you did back then was, and this happens today, don't get me wrong, Furnace Fest, Take Hold Fest, all these old things was very for the, like if you look at a bill, what's Riot Fest? If you look at a Riot Fest, the Furnace Fest was for all these little name bands at the bottom were just starting to like catch on. They were going to be on Furnace Fest the year before. Mm-hmm. Like Furnace Fest has this, you have this, like it's the same thing. You have this ability to find bands and be like, I think they're gonna, and I'm glad you finally got Driveways. I only told you about it 2-3 years ago. It was the first text I sent Chad when the flyer dropped. I was like, I'm glad you finally got this band. I love that band. But that was always like a point for you. Do you feel like that's something that still excites you about Furnace Fest? It's still like that new optimist, like the looking for the new, looking for the fun. I like that. Obviously any band would play again, like in the smaller space, but I like that it's not the same every year because you know this as well as I do. Furnace Fest Community Group, which if you go to Furnace Fest and you're not on Furnace Fest Community Group, what are you doing? Go give Elena a headache. Yep. They love making the Spotify playlist. They love being like, just found this band, never heard of them, best band I've ever heard in my entire life. Like they love that, and the amount of comments you see on that stuff is crazy, and that has to feel good on your side because you're like, cool. We're still finding the energy people are looking for. Which I say all of that to bring me to the point of, is there anything else that does that? Even at all, but especially to the scale of Furnace Fest, is there anything else that looks at new and up and coming the way Furnace Fest does?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm just not certain what it is or who it is, but it's very, it's helped me rediscover music and my appreciation for music, trying to find, like, one of the things that's obviously different this year is that we approached what I think Furnace Fest was originally, not a replica of Furnace Fest, with some exceptions, but originally Furnace Fest was made up of 90% or more artists that were current, that were modern, that were touring, that were in the scene, that were active then, and not really, it would have been a kind of a rare thing back then for there to be a band like a Strong Arm that were coming back to do something. And so for 4 years, a huge chunk of what we were trying to invest into the festival was who can come back
reunions
and do something that hasn't done it in a long time. And if for the sake of sustainability and interest, the festival has to move.
You also just run out of people.
Yeah. Right. There's like, how many more people can we potentially pursue, that haven't already done. How many times does Scoggin have to tell me I won't do Norma Jean, Westermark, or The Chariot? And how many times, at what point does a friendship completely dissolve because I'm just constantly
asking,
badgering Strong Arm to do something? I think I have come to a place where I feel peace about never asking some bands ever again, just because I feel like I've done that.
Bro, I know Joe will front Strong Arm whenever they're.
I know.
He read out it.
I know.
And it would be great.
It would be, that would make that man's life. He could die the next day, happy as he could be.
If they don't scream those lyrics.
Oh yeah. Well, I asked him. I said, "How would you feel about Chris Carrabba screaming for strong arm just further?" And he was like, "No,
No.
Which is another one that, like, we were both at the show of what is the place called? The Factory, Franklin.
Oh yeah.
We were both there the night that will probably only ever happen again.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them because have y'all asked?
Yeah, we haven't. It just hasn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
it hasn't happened.
I'm kind of also surprised. I obviously don't know the budget side of them, but I feel like Dashboard can. If Jimmy can fit, I feel like Dashboard can fit.
Yeah, totally. I think it's. I think that this year there was some kind of scheduling conflict or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feel like
I'd cry grown man tears for Dashboard. Golly. Yeah, no one can sing and scream into an acoustic guitar like that man. He can. Yeah. Anyways, so when you're looking at like Furnace Fest from that perspective, how important is it? Like, how important is it now, at least going forward, that you get back to that 90-10 ratio?
I think it's extremely important because I do see it as a situation of sustainability versus, I don't know, just not being able to continue doing we in so many ways are having to recalibrate expectations for a festival where you will uncover likely a bunch of bands that you had never heard of before.
Right.
And while simultaneously still experiencing and enjoying some really rare or reunion or crazy sets and stuff, but it's not, I think that the way you described it, like a 90-10 or a 80-20 rule is more like that. I could see being a sustainable model versus the 70% nostalgia, 30% or something, whatever it was.
Not to say that obviously once you know this for the next 4 years, we've got great album playthroughs. We've talked about this a bunch. 2007 is nuts. You better get your budget right because you've got, well, if you want to go crazy and get Paramore for Riot, but like all the like the biggest Mayday Parade records are then. Obviously with next year you've got Define the Great Line. I know that's on your thought process, and I know a lot of people will probably be expecting next year because we got They're Only Chasing Safety, which if I said this in the Joe episode, I talked to you that night, I talked to Lena, I talked to Luther, I probably talked to Johnny, but everyone thought it was the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. I mean, I think that's what's so crazy about this is like that was. I jumped off of the stage from a couch that Under Oath had there with
which was awesome.
Thanks. With that was totally impromptu and unplanned. In the first stage dive, maybe ever in the history of my life.
Oh, dude, it was. It's on video. It was awesome.
And so, in my mind, that was like I was like, a night like tonight is when I would do something like this because. Yeah. It's the finale. This is it. And I was turning 51 like an hour later. So so that was fun. But I was like, okay, this is the best way. This is the best way to say goodbye to 50 and hello to 51, jumping off a stage to Under Oath. But I think that it was last year was the perfect closure, closing or closure. To the 4-part replica series, and that what has started since is a completely different beast altogether.
I think it's important, like this clarification, because end of an era. What's the era? Like, what does that mean? Like, people don't. I know. Well, obviously, I know, but like, what does that mean to certain people? To hear this, like, hey, our priority then was reunions and nostalgia and everything else, and now our priority is we want to find the next Bill Murray, we want to find the next Knocked Loose, like on the front end, which is stuff that festivals do. And I think giving that mindset to people kind of helps them, this is the wrong way to say it, but something I can think of it, feel less scammed out of like, I bought into this was the last one era, the last one ever, even though the branding said end of an era. We all believed it was the last one, but I bought into this. Now you're back. How can I ever trust again? It's not the same thing. And I think being able to kind of articulate it more even in this conversation, just it makes sense to me. But I knew you told me forever ago that if there was a longevity, it has to go back.
Yeah.
Which I love that, because one thing I've talked about before on other episodes is the lack of kids starting bands is kind of crazy. And you remember back in Roadside Records, every kid at Cornerstone had a band.
Yeah.
Now, Furnace Fest is a different animal. Like take a winter jam. How many of those kids have a band?
Yeah.
When we were going to acquire the Fires, we were all in bands. But it's just such a different era. Obviously, music's made very differently now. But to me, I feel like something like Furnace Fest is so important because it might be one of the only things that still incentivizes and like, not necessarily incentivizes, just gives kids the dream of like, yeah, I'm going to play that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. When Chad's 75, I'm going to play the Pawn Stage, play the Pawn Stage. Pawn Stage rules. But you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it's such a thing that now, once you're through the like, we're getting everybody back, we're doing all this, now I feel like you can get into the meat of it.
Yeah.
Which for me, the meat of it is the future. And knowing you, and obviously a lot of the stuff we talked about, you're very like, what's next? What's the future? And I feel like I love the direction that Furnace Fest is going.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, it just to me now, it makes it's fairly clear looking back that the end of an era was the end of Furnace Fest attempting to replicate the originals.
Yeah.
And is the introduction now of Furnace Fest as its own standalone, unique heartbeat, apart, not completely apart from those, because it's not like we're trying to ignore or avoid where we came from or discredit where we came from, but it's not the sole focus. Yeah, it still feels very surprising to be here, and still feels crazy. But.
I don't want to make this episode much longer because I feel like we did so much in the last one. And you talk, there's a lot of times where you're on things now talking about Furnace Fest. But the two things I do want to say before we move on, I've already left. Who is the band that you still haven't got that you're like, if we don't get this band on Furnace Fest, like I'm going to go crazy? Like, who's the band that you're still like, being like we're obviously in a band together and like we deal with our own schedule and stuff. What they deal with on like a 90 band sketch, it's insane.
Sure.
Like sitting in those meetings of like, you want Dashboard can only play at this time slot on this day because they're somewhere else that day and they're somewhere this and this, and if it doesn't work, we'll just talk about it next year. Like it's literally like a lot of those bands, there's limited to no flexibility. And I think obviously in Furnace Fest community group, some people like are just, you guys never try for the band I want. That's not necessarily the case. It's sometimes like you like hit them at the time when, because people are booking stuff year out, you know. So what's the band you haven't been able to get yet?
I mean, there's actually quite a few. There's probably a
give some people some hope. Go ahead.
Well, just because it's a band that we haven't gotten doesn't necessarily mean there's hope.
My bad.
My bad. I think bands that I personally would love to see at Furnace Fest, because it's just there's a personal connection, would be Me Without You, because that was they were meant to play 2021, and then COVID kind of ruined that. And then by 2022, it didn't work out, and they had broken up. And so I think at some point,
give
Me
them a
Without
little
You. I still think a Chariot or Norma Jean or both, Chariot and Bless the Martyr, would be unbelievable.
To be fair, we did get Josh.
Yeah, and that is actually a beautiful thing that Josh has always. It's without a doubt his way of saying, this festival is extremely special to me. I would never do this anywhere else. And that's super appreciated and recognized. I think Dead Poetic would be would be amazing. I think even a band like Spitfire, which hasn't done anything in a long time. For me, a band that's not Christian related is a band called Grade, and they're from Canada. They put out this one record called Under the Radar that was so good. And I still to this day, anytime it comes out, I'm just like, whoa, it's such a great record, man. There's quite a few, like Refused was one we thought we were going to get this year.
I remember that conversation.
And then it
that
just
was the
didn't pan
2023
out.
float around.
Yeah, then it almost happened that year. I mean, I would say any year with MXPX is a good year.
Yeah.
But
sounds to me like we just need to repeat that Friday.
Yeah.
What about on the modern side that you're like, you're finding in the
Bill
most
Murray
recent?
was one you mentioned. Bill
know.
Murray's one that we've always wanted to have.
That's
It's just
the
never
Elena
worked
band
out.
that she's always wanted. Yeah.
So solid.
Bill
She
Murray
talked
would
about
be
them like 2 or
sick.
3 years ago, and I was like, "You
Really?
mean like Bill Murray, the actor?"
Yeah.
She's like, "The band
Crazy.
listened to him," and I was like, "This is like country metal." She's
Yeah.
like, "Trust
That's
me."
awesome.
She was right. Boy, was she right.
I think having Turnstile back on this new album would have been potentially really great.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. There's a lot. For some reason, my mind is blanking as to who they are in the moment. But I think having Mind Force back would be great.
Dude,
Pretty
I
much every
remember
year-
when you were
pretty
like,
much
"I
every year,
love Mind
Yeah,
Force."
Mind Force every year would be fine. I think having more like bands from other countries would be great, and it's kind of
Gotta be careful with that.
yeah, spreading.
You
the
don't
love
want
a
the
little
wristband thrown away again.
bit. Oh, true.
Oh my gosh! For y'all
X-Toll.
that don't know that story, xToll was supposed to play 2023.
That was our year.
Yeah,
Remember
and they couldn't get their like
Visas,
visas,
in time
yeah.
or something. Yeah.
this
Remember 'cause we
guy.
were driving from Nashville down, and you were like, "Uh oh."
Yeah, because it was like
Yeah.
last minute, and this guy like threw away his wristband and posted it for first community. He was just pissed.
Yeah.
He was, I flew from wherever, Pennsylvania or something like
I
that,
think
just
so.
to see xToll. You guys not going to tell me till the day before. So when xToll did play last year, I remember Elena was like, "We're not announcing until like the papers are stamped and they're on the plane."
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be cool because there's a
Yeah.
lot of good, like at least in the like metalcore stuff world, there's a lot of good stuff in the UK.
For sure.
I know people have asked this. What's the chances of like Furnace Fest on the road? I was very big in the group chat when I still worked there for Furnace Fest Cruise. No one was interested in that other than me and Elena.
No, man,
Luther
I-
was very against that. He was
Yeah,
like,
I
I'm not
don't
doing
think
that.
I don't think any of us would be very excited about a Furnace Fest cruise. Unfortunately for you, but I don't know, man. Like to me, it's really, as much as there could be potential for Furnace Fest outside of Birmingham, Alabama, at Sloss Furnaces, it's really difficult for me to envision what that
Somewhere
would look
else.
like and
Yeah.
how that would feel. We call it Furnace Fest, but it really isn't Furnace Fest because the furnace being referenced in the fest is a physical location
It's
with
Sloss
physical
Furnaces.
furnaces. So it's like unless we were able to find and I have heard there's a place in Pennsylvania, I think.
Four Chord.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where they do it.
Yeah. So maybe there's places around the world that
There's got to be another furnace.
right somehow.
Where was
I think
Shadrach,
so.
Meshach?
Yeah,
Where was
yeah.
that? Where was that one at?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
Yeah. Furnace Fest Middle East.
There, yeah. Don't knock it. I'm just saying. I think it would be cool to do stuff like that because there's a lot of people that dude. I remember you telling me, I can't remember when or whatever, but to watch the ticket sales come from like every state and Australia and all these other places to see. Obviously, like the numbers for like Tennessee, Atlanta, or Georgia, all that. Like, of course, like we see that. But like, I remember like the Alaska ticket sale. We're just like, this is wild. Like people come from all over. So
It's crazy.
It's so cool for that. But to do something like, because I'll argue to anyone that this doesn't exist anywhere other than this. I know there's things that do good fest. Like I think Four Chord's cool. Matt Hoops. I was like, I know someone who played it. They said they had a good time. It's a cool fest. It's just a different vibe. I personally don't think Warped Tour is knocking it out of the park this year, but I understand it's the first year. You got to work some stuff out. But I just don't think there's anything quite like a Furnace Fest. And I think there's a lot of people that can't necessarily experience. Obviously, you can't appease everyone, but like a Furnace Fest somewhere in the, Seattle. Dude, Seattle would be a cool place because you could really get tooth and nail tight. Maybe that's where we're doing Come Live Fest. No, that's Nashville. We got to do that in Nashville.
Yeah, that would be Nashville at the Anchor.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that's very specific.
Yep.
Well, dude, I love you, and I appreciate
too.
you doing this. I'm
Thank
so
you guys for
excited
having me.
Absolutely.
to see the next few years of Furnace Fest, the next few years of whatever you're doing, because you are someone that I will blindly follow anywhere,
scary, but
just
thank
because I believe in you, and I believe in. At the end of the day, you get it. You work it out, because I think it matters to you so much more than a lot of other people to feel like. You're going to say it's narcissism. I don't think so. I feel like it matters to me. It matters to you so much of like making sure you provide the best experience, the best atmosphere, the best everything for people when it's something you're a part of that I've never seen anyone else do something like that. And that's something that like, yeah, you just can't replicate. So I'm excited to see what you got next. And the last thing is, I'm also sorry about the group chat from years and years ago when I worked there.
That was amazing.
Dude,
loved it.
it was me and Chad, or me and Mike and Elena would text at like various times of the day, and me and Mike was like midnight, and it didn't last very long. Everybody was like, all right, y'all got to stop this, because we'd start arguing about the Mavs or something like that. And it was just like, all right, there's too many people in this group chat. So I got booted pretty quick, but it's fine. It's fine. And I only ever got in trouble with the mood ring video.
Oh,
That was
that's
the
right.
only one, which I thought it was funny. You
Yeah.
thought it was, yeah. So the
Yeah,
only time.
you did an amazing job. You definitely provided some very unique and interesting content.
That's one way to
that,
put it, isn't it?
Yep, that I think that no one else could have provided except for you. So
Hey,
yeah,
say what you will.
xYouthGroupx before it was even a podcast.
That's what I'm saying. All right. Thanks for watching, Chad. Thanks again for being here. See you next
Thank
time.
you.